The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess, mentioning that you continued on with Strut and that there was some sort of tension between Lyrical Commission and Obese in that time. In 07, Strut dropped his album, Legend Official. And on there it had the classic Monopoly. Now, he didn't call no one out on there by name, to my understanding.
Yeah.
But was that a direct shot at Obese?
Oh, there was definite undertones in there, yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, we as a byproduct of what I was just mentioning, of us being segregated from the scene, and Obese was the catalyst to the scene. That was the big hub for 75% of the scene. And then you kind of had your Delta over here doing his thing, and I'm talking about when the hoods were even on Obese, It's hard to even think that was the case now, but it was the case. And Pegs himself as an artist was gaining momentum, and but then you had like a Delta over here, and you had a Proud Enough set even prior to Delta joining it, and you had us over here. So it was almost like without us running around hanging shit on them or talking about that divide, it definitely felt like the divide was there, and that we were probably copping more for not being a part of that big growing family, you know what I mean? And I had my reasons for it, and I think Strut had additional reasons for it. He worked at Obese, he helped like build that shop and the label more than what people realise, because his best mate was Shaz, who bought the shop from Ollie Bobbitt, who owned it originally. And that was his boy, you know what I mean? So Strut worked in there from the time Shaz took it over till I think not long after Pegs took it over. So, there was some other shit I think going on in the background with that, but and understandably so, because Brad built the label well before it became what it became, and he helped build the shop. And my understanding is even when he dropped Authentic, in a time where it was hard to stay afloat as a label and a shop, I think Authentic did a lot for both. I think that kept both afloat for a period of time. So, he might have felt a bit shafted at the other end as well due to certain things, but that's probably a question for him, you know what I mean? But it was sort of like, we were still, irrespective of what the monopoly at the time was doing, or, we were still carving our own path and felt like, we were still killing it, irrespective of how big this family was growing over here, you know what I mean? So.
And was there any backlash? Like, did you guys have a conversation with Pegs around that time or after that time?
Yeah, there was a few little backlashes. I mean, there were some issues with some other dudes on the label, which I won't go into, but there was sort of some little bit of verbal, stepped into physical altercation shit, but it never got out of hand. Yeah, it was almost a case of everyone knew where they stood to a degree, so it was just a case of, there was no need to go into it in detail. I think some shit got sorted out eventually, and everyone's kind of happy to do their own thing now, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm still here doing what I've always done, irrespective of who took it on, who paid attention to it, and that's kind of has been my mindset from the get-go, you know what I mean? Hence why I've formed my own label anyway, so I had that luxury to do what I want with it, and, I wasn't trying to make it something that potentially wasn't, or I didn't rely on other people to come on board and turn it into something that it didn't start out as, or whatever, But that was all interesting. And like I said, man, I feel like touching on the Adelaide shit and what happened, what I was told happened with Train of Thought, we were catching some bad blood, via that, whether it was less people turning up to our shows, people not buying our product, threats. We had threats. We had threats before we went to Adelaide, you know what I mean, one time. I don't know if it might have been that Jimmy Rose gig, actually. And I remember, I think it was, because I remember before we bounced, we just raided the fucking kitchen for tools to take on stage, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I mean, you know, we copped a bit of a backlash without having further discussions with probably the guts of where it was all coming from. But I think a lot of it was he said, she said, and the message wasn't actually getting passed on correctly. You know what I mean? So, you know, it is what it is, man. I'm cool with it. You know, the track's a banger. Like the track is lethal, man. Like
Prowler beat?
Prowler beat, strut rap with vengeance, you know, and hunger and passion and, you know, all that I love the dude for when he is on the mic, you know what I mean? It doesn't get no better really from a local rap track, really, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, but no, but that track, I've got one problem with that track, and one problem only is that, and it was because of me anyway, but that I didn't get that track to rap on. That's my only beef with that joint, man, because that's fucking brutal, you know. But you know, that album as a whole was as, you know, I feel like it was as much mine as Brad's, you know, because I invested, you know, 110% of my being into that album. I believed in that dude, you know, probably more than he did, to be honest with you. And yeah, so I gave that shit, you know, my everything. Even though it was a Prowls beat and a strut rap, I still called Monopoly a Trem track.
And how come you didn't rap on the joint?
Oh, he had it, man. Well, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he had it. He had it covered. You know, that was cool. I already rapped on a couple more tracks on that album. I think I rapped on 3 tracks anyway. It nearly became an LC album by the end of it, believe me. I was just like fucking... But yeah, that was my day and night life, that album, for probably longer than I spent on the Stages set, you know, because we came off the back of his mixtape as well. So I probably spent two full years just on strut shit. Maybe longer. But, yeah.
The lesson. 927. Oh yeah.